Oh, okay. Well, you're the first one here, so let's just wait a little bit.
All right,
Uh,
good.
how have you been? How is
Good, good. I got COVID, so got that out of the way
Oh
for the
no,
season. Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Oh,
No, it was fine. It was fine. It was short, so it's good.
so you're back on your feet.
Yeah, I'm better. I'm better. Yeah.
Well, this is the first time.
No, second actually, believe it or not. So.
Uh, yeah. Hey John.
Hi.
We're just talking about him recovering from COVID.
I got
Oh,
COVID last week. Yeah,
Wait.
I'm better now. I'm better.
sorry.
Yeah, it's like seasonal flu now. It's like you just get it and you get over it. As long as you've been initially vaccinated, you're good. So.
Mhm.
I need to get a booster. Thanks for that reminder.
Yeah, I was going to and I didn't, and Robert did, but I didn't do it, and I kind of regret it. But it's fine.
No, I wanna do it. I've been meaning to do it for like a month and not getting around to it.
Hmm. Just
But
go tomorrow. Go do it tomorrow.
you're right. I'm writing it down here now.
I'm probably due for another one too. As we all go indoors now for the winter.
Yeah.
I guess especially living in places with seasons.
Oh God, it is
So-
cold here.
yes.
It's winter here. We got a foot of snow last week, so.
Oh, holy cow. Wow.
Oh, yeah. John, do you have snow too? Which is
No, we had a little bit look like a snow globe yesterday, just a little
oh,
flurry, but it's cold. It's like the high was 20 today, which is
ooh,
like more like December weather.
yeah. Well, I mean, it is almost December.
I know, but it's like later December. Like we went from like pretty nice to like frigid.
Oh, sorry.
Most of November was good though.
Do the dogs care when it like changes really fast?
Dee Dee does.
Oh, yeah,
She
okay.
doesn't like the cold. She's a min pin, Kim.
Okay. Yeah.
Not a good winter dog.
Monty experienced snow for the first time last week, so
What did he think of it?
he was a little confused. I wasn't here actually. Robert took him out, but yeah, and we had a foot, and so he had a hard time because he couldn't. He's probably, and now he's probably like 14 inches high, but his legs are only probably 10, so he had a little bit of a hard time. But he's used to it. He likes it now.
Nice.
It makes the smells more intense because there's fewer things for him to smell, so like the animals and stuff going around, he seems more interested in that than before. So
I really like that when there's snow on the ground, you can see
yeah.
you can see the tracks, because otherwise it's just like, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what you found over there.
Yeah, we went across the road today and there was some kind of big canine tracks, probably a coyote, and he was sniffing it out. So
nice. Well, let's just get started. Everyone will have access to the recording anyways if they miss a part. You both sent me your questions before, but you're both here, and that's awesome. So, does one of you want to start? And if not, also, do you guys know each other?
no.
If not, do you want to quickly introduce yourselves and your dogs?
Sure. Sure. So I'm Kim. My dog is Monty. He's a rescue. He's gonna be 10 months old in December, and I mean supposedly that's what they've told us. He's a healer. He's 50% Australian cattle dog, supposedly 30% Rottweiler and 20% Husky.
Oh wow.
And he's very smart and very opinionated. Yeah. So and we live in upstate New York, like out about 3 hours from New York City. So.
Oh, whereabouts? I grew up in New York.
We're in Greene County in the Catskills.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I grew up outside of the city, but like my first husband was from Ithaca, and
yeah, not that far north.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Joan. The dog I'm participating with tonight. He's a judge. He's an 8-month-old Malinois. He is actually from Caden. He's one of Game's puppies. So yeah, and I have other dogs, but he's my first Mal. And he's like in the throes of, adolescence, and he likes to be loud about it. So like he just walks into the room and like, ah! like lots of vocalizing his opinions, which is, I guess, pretty normal for the breed. So, and I'm in Minnesota,
Oh, okay.
Minneapolis area.
It is interesting because you both have one like overlapping questions actually.
Oh,
That's good. That's good.
And I've also heard Monty being opinionated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So would one of you like to start? You can ask your own questions since you're here, or would you want me to start with the question of someone who's not here?
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So if someone volunteers, I'll let you start, and otherwise I'll start with someone who won't be able to make it.
Oh, I mean, I can go if you want.
Sure.
Okay, so Judge jumps on like every surface known to man, and he's very three-dimensional. Like unlike the border collies aren't so three-dimensional, and I have a lab also, and they're not like, they don't think about the things up above them, but he sees everything. He thinks about everything. But I mean, I'm getting front feet on the counters, on the mantle above the fireplace, on the table, like on the thing where we set our bags when we come in at home, and like sometimes I set my training bag up there. I mean, pretty much every surface. And he's wise to the game. So like if I'm in the kitchen and I'm like making my lunch or whatever, he sits like a perfect gentleman in the corner, and he knows like I'm going to give him cookies for behaving. But then it's just the other time, like you're doing something, he's just running around jumping on everything. So we're always kind of hauling him off of stuff. And like I wrote in my note, like the main floor of the house is like all open, so it's not an issue being in the kitchen. I don't care if he's in the kitchen. I just don't want his feet on everything all the time. And then related, I would say in the last like week, he started kind of jumping on me more. Like he never used to jump on people, and he doesn't jump on anyone else really. But he's really started jumping on me, or maybe at me is a better description. I mean, he's 8 months old. He's 55 pounds. He's going to be maybe 80 pounds. So I don't mind. Like I don't mind the border collies jump on me a little bit, but he's going to be too big for that. And he's just very boisterous, like and it's just, he could give you a black eye pretty fast. He's just, so I want all the feet on the ground. He doesn't jump on strangers or anything because he doesn't really care about people that much. But that's like my big, and it's all kind of all one big issue, like feet on the floor. And I haven't had a counter surfer in ever, maybe. I mean, so and sometimes he'll take things. He'll like grab the dish towel. There's nothing very exciting. Like he hasn't scored anything like food or anything, but he's, or he'll try to grab a toy out of my training bag, or, a mitten or whatever. And he gives the stuff up. It's not like he's playing keep away or anything. He's, but that's my biggest issue, like in the house, like day-to-day living.
Yeah, Kim, would you want to add, because you have a very, very similar question? Differences and similarities?
Yeah, I mean, that was actually my number 2 question, but yeah, it's so relevant to, I mean, since I don't think it's really necessarily an adolescent issue with him. It's from the beginning where he's always, and I think it's a lot of it for him is just curiosity. He just wants to know what's going on all the time. And he puts his feet on the counter, and it's not even just, he's definitely food motivated. He's trying to see what food is up there, but he will take anything off the counter. Glasses, reading glasses, a pot, a hot mitt, what did he get? Just like a bottle of juice, whatever it is on the counter, he wants it just to get it off. And then he does, contrary to what you're saying, he does play keep away, where he kind of turns it into a game where he's like, haha, look what I got off the counter, come and get it for me, so yeah, definitely relevant for us.
Yeah. So Kim, you have been playing a little bit of keep away, so that's probably reinforcing the behavior. John,
I try not to.
How have you been hunting it so far? So what have you tried that has not worked?
Okay, sorry.
Oh, me. Oh, sorry.
One of you. Yeah.
I mean, not really nothing has worked unless, unless it's completely like a training setup, I mean, where I'm like, I have a pile of cookies on the counter and I'm at the cutting board, and then he just sits there and, is what really well behaved. And like, he didn't try to jump up so much when he was younger. It's just like, he seemed to have hit that phase and he's just everything, he's just on everything. So like, it seems like I'm constantly like, get off, like, it does not mean nothing works. I'm physically like taken by the collar, or, I've tried, redirecting him with toys. I mean, he's got toys everywhere. He's got other dogs to play with, but he's just like, he's really into checking everything out and getting into stuff.
So you usually walk over and physically remove him from the counter, for example.
That, or or tell, it usually takes that because he's pretty persistent. If you just like say something to him, he's less like, yeah, whatever. I mean, I'm busy here. I'm busy trying to open your training bag and steal something like a toy,
And then you give him an alternative activity.
I mean, I'll take him and give him another toy, or take him, over out of the kitchen space into the family room or whatever. That's like 6 feet away. I mean, we're not so big space. So yeah, the good news is like, I don't really have much history of doing anything, but like nothing's working and it's annoying. And the other part of the problem is Caden knows, like, we have a lot of dogs. And so like, if everybody's out, like he needs to be able to behave. I can't set everything up as a training thing. So I'm gonna have all these dogs mobbing me for food. I can just see the lab, like, thank God, like, excellent, we're gonna train the puppy. So I mean, because they're all like crazy, they're all food motivated, some more than others, but I mean, so it's like, it's really hard to set, I mean, unless he's out by himself or there's one other dog. But even if there's one other dog, that dog's going to be front and center, like, let's go, game time. So and he does it regardless of kind of who's out.
So I suspect you've been reinforcing it with attention, because you're doing something else, right? As you said, when you're cooking and paying attention, he's like sitting there like a good gentleman, waiting for his treats that he's getting on a regular basis for being a good gentleman. Happens when you're not paying attention to him, right? You're doing other things in the house.
Right. Yeah.
And then he immediately gets your attention.
Yeah.
And you redirect him and give him a toy. So it's great. He knows how to push your buttons and make you engage with him.
Yeah.
So I actually accidentally taught a behavior chain like this to Chai when she was looking out the window. And I taught her, she already knew a leave it, and I said, leave it, and she'd come to me for a treat. And like, rather than that behavior going down in frequency, it went up really fast, because she figured out, oh, I just need to put I get the start button, I put my front paws in the window, and I hear leave it, and I get a treat. So neutral or positive interrupters will often not work with dogs who are just having fun with this and also love attention. And that's probably true for both of your dogs. So 2 routes that tend to work well are either a stronger degree of management until they have outgrown that phase. So just make it impossible for them to do that behavior if you're not supervising. That could be by having them in another room, having them tethered to a waist leash, so that they are with you even if you're not paying attention, so long enough that they can lie down next to you and they kind of have to follow you around, but they're not able to independently go over, find a counter, find something to steal. Or grading or a different room. So like, that would be the management route. So simply making sure the behavior cannot happen, because every time it happens, it will likely get reinforced if you simply interrupt it, because interruption is attention. And unless a dog is highly sensitive, this is it's positive attention. Like, it feels good to them, even if you're slightly annoyed. Because it's like publicity, right? All publicity is good publicity. All attention is great. And I think both Judge and Monty fall into the category of dogs who very much enjoy any kind of attention. So either management or implement a consequence that is not something desirable to the dog. So like that would be punishment. And it's got to be like, it is automatically punishment if it makes the behavior go down in frequency by its definition. So, but that doesn't mean it has to be harsh. It just has to be something the dog doesn't want in that situation, or would rather not have happen in that situation. So it could, in Chai's case, for example, what I did with her, and I mentioned that to Kim at an earlier point, and that is not that's not going to work with Judge because it's too large and heavy. But so I always teach my dogs an announcement before I pick them up, because I don't want to startle them, even though I don't pick them up all the time because they can walk by themselves. But sometimes I've got to pick them up, and they don't love it because it takes away agency. They don't mind it. But so when Chai put her paws up, I used that announcement that's up. I should say up. The moment she put her paws up, so I'm marking that behavior with my announcement, basically going over, picking her up and holding her like this for a couple seconds, and then putting her on the floor again. And like, that's not something, like, I'm not doing anything horrible to my dog, but it's not what she wants in that situation, and it's something she would prefer did not happen. So with that, I pretty quickly got rid of the behavior. So you probably can't pick up, because Chai is very light, it's easy to pick her up, and especially at that age, she was even lighter. But what could be an equivalent to that, like a consequence that you could implement that is not desirable attention?
I'd put him in his crate. I mean, his crate is right there, and like next to the kitchen in the family room area. But sometimes I often feel bad just because when, during the work week is not always easy for him. So he's in his crate, some days are not optimal, but I mean, I get him out, play in the morning, we play at lunch, we play in the late afternoon and the evening, but still, it's not optimal. So sometimes I feel bad, like, especially if it's the weekend or something, or it's finally like his time to be with the family, or be, because he needs to be confined when he's not being watched. So, but I mean, that's my one, and I don't know if it happened repeatedly, if it would finally get through to him or not.
I mean, you could do it just for a minute, right? That's enough timeout for him.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't mean, okay, you crate him and then he's stuck there for the next hours.
Yeah. Right. Like a minute would be an appropriate amount of time.
And then he gets to try again.
Okay.
And so like, you could just set aside 2 or 3 evenings where you actually focus on that. You observe him, and anytime he does it, you set a timer, put him in his crate, let him out again after a minute, observe what he does. He chooses to lie down and chill out, praise him, or even drop a treat between his paws. And if he chooses to go up on a counter, back in the crate for another minute. Just observe just for a couple of days. What happens. If it works, you should see results fast.
Okay. Would you put any kind of word with it, like, so he knows, like, hey, I'm taking your collar and I'm putting you in the crate, like?
That would be a good idea, because then you can mark that exact moment that he puts his paws up there. And if you have a send to crate cue, maybe don't use that, because in this situation, you're not asking.
Right.
It's going to happen whether he wants to or not. So you could use a new word, and he'll figure that out very fast. He'll probably also quickly learn to remove his paws the moment he sees you coming. So put a drag line on his collar, because otherwise he will be playing even if he hasn't stolen anything. and just observe for a few days. Like say like, okay, 2 hours, day one, how many times do you put him in his crate?
Mhm.
Same time frame on day two,
Mhm.
the number go down. Same time on day three, is it even lower? And you
Mhm.
can see it going down pretty quickly, especially if he tries it a lot, because the more often he makes this mistake, the more opportunities you have to explain to him, no, that's not actually what we do and what we want here. Yeah.
Mhm.
Does that sound like a solution you could try?
Yeah, I mean that's more realistic because it's like I could, at least since his crate is right in the area, it would be very easy to just escort him in and, uh, you know,
Yeah,
fine. Yeah,
give it a try.
yeah.
And if not, alternatively, the tethering him to use solution could also be worth a try.
Hmm.
In any case, he's clearly not ready to be free in the house unsupervised. This is not at all uncommon. So yeah, these dogs are usually three-dimensional. That's why many people keep them in like some sort of kennel setup, right? Rather than living with them in the house because they don't want to deal with it.
Hmm.
If we want to live with them, now is the time, like right when the behaviors start,
Yep.
to teach them that, well, it's not going to work.
Hmm. But I do the same if he's jumping on me. I think, he's just so excited, like I get home and he's excited. Like today I was at an agility trial and I got home and he's like, super excited. But, like I bent down, like he clocked me in the head one day. he's rough. He's, hit you hard.
Yeah. So what you could do the same, or what you could also try, what I've successfully done, both my mouths have done that. Like just get super excited and be like this rocket that is like almost takes me out anytime like I leave for like to go shopping or do whatever, and then I come back home, right? Because it's so amazing to see me.
Right. I know. I mean, I'm glad he likes me, but it's like, all right, just like pump the brakes here.
So what I have done in that situation, because I didn't want, like, I mean, it's nice, right? That it's nice that they like us. So what I've done there is just like the moment I open the door, cue a scatter.
No.
And then initially I started out with, because that is something that has like consistently happened when coming home rather than at random occasions.
Mm-hmm.
I could predict when it would happen and I knew exactly. So like I'm opening the door, I'm cueing a scatter, and like that's just a calming activity, especially if you use like a big handful, tiny kibble.
Mm-hmm.
They have to really sniff for it.
Mm-hmm.
And initially I would do like wait for all the scatter to be eaten, and then do another handful. Like, so initially it would be maybe 5 in a row, and then over time, 4 in a row, 3 in a row, 2 in a row, only 1. And like until they were in a mindset where they could greet me calmly, and I would greet them calmly, like praising them, talking to them, like let them rub up to me, calmly stroking them, like not reciprocating the excitement. And initially that would take several scatters in a row, but over time, like that went further and further down. And I mean, that is something that has worked for me really well, because I usually feed, so when I feed kibble, they never eat that out of a bowl when they're under a year old. I just use it throughout the day for anything I like and for things like this, right? So as long as the dog is on kibble, I basically have a lot of food to work with during a day that I can just throw at them anytime I need to. Yeah, like if you fed raw, like you could think about maybe cutting down on the raw food and mixing in some kibble for activities like this one.
Yeah.
And like I like using kibble for stuff like that simply because I use so much of it that I want it to be more or less balanced rather than being cheese or hot dogs. And also it's lower value, so it's not going to get them super excited.
Yeah, because it seems like a lot when it's like I let him out of his crate. Because then if it's the work day and then he's used to it, he's like, oh, we're gonna go in the basement, we're gonna have a training session, and he's all excited to like go play with his toys and play, work, So
And it's yeah, I feel like it's understandable. So try this first before making it a punishment event.
Okay.
If that seems
Yeah,
realistic.
it doesn't seem like something he should be punished for. He's just excited, he just can't control his big body.
Yeah, and once he learns, the first thing we do is, okay, we eat a scatter. That should go down over time. And if it doesn't, there's always other options.
Mhm.
We don't have to start with that one, especially after having been imprisoned for a bit.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Kim, you had a second question as well.
Well, can I just follow up on the pause in the counter? So I have to say the command and then just putting Monty in his crate with the nipping thing really, really worked for us. So
yeah.
So Joan, I would highly recommend that approach, just because I talked with Caden earlier and we had an issue with Monty kind of like attacking me, not just jumping on me, but like nipping me and biting me. And as soon as we started doing this, as soon as he did it, I said, crate, put him in his crate. And it really, really worked. I'm not sure it would work for the paws on the counter just because I'd be putting him in his crate all the time, essentially, just because he does it all the time. He's like always his feet on the counter. So I'm not sure that, but maybe the tethering might work. Although I feel like that's a reward for him to be tethered to me because he always wants to be with me. So I'm not sure.
Like that is not necessarily a bad thing because he gets a reward for behaviors that are not undesirable. Like being with you is not a bad thing, right? And it can't be on the counter. So you're not rewarding the feet on the counter by tethering him to you. You're just preventing him from practicing the behavior. But yeah, my thought was if we do use things like timeouts, I feel it's only fair if we make sure that their needs are met, right? So they get enough attention during the day and enough exercise, mental and physical. And I know Judge gets that for sure because he takes all kinds of classes during the week, and he has so many dog playmates at the house. Monty, I don't think has playmates.
Not right now.
Yeah. So maybe does a little less. So you can always try adding a little more exercise, both physically and mentally, to see if that helps a little bit. Because especially if he like really wants to play that game, right, where he steals stuff and then you follow him. Because the older they get, or at that age, the more resources in terms of energy they have. And he'll need more now than he did when he was still a puppy. So maybe for mental exercise, just things like shaping is something that I feel like tires them out really nicely. To think and figure out things. Like, have you tried that before, Kim?
Well, right now we're working on him going into his spot, which is on the other side of a it's go sit in your spot on the other side of a barrier. And then Sunday we're starting it's not flyball per se, but it's like intro to flyball. So it's all about the tug toy and bringing a ball to the tug toy. So we're going to start with that on Sunday. So
nice. Okay, excellent. So he'll have some more.
Yeah, some more structured play, quote unquote. So it's not just him chasing things in the yard. So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, because I think he needs something for his brain too.
Yeah.
Could scare him out a little bit mentally. Otherwise, he'll keep coming up with his own.
He will. He'll find stuff to do.
Yeah, perfect. And you have a class, then you have homework, and
yeah. So our other question was about him suddenly becoming I don't know if it's afraid, but just like wary of going to a specific place. So our property up the road, you know, he would come up there with us and we'd put him on the screened in porch and just leave him there for like not long, like maybe, 5-10 minutes and then bring him home. And he suddenly started not wanting to go up there at all. Like he wouldn't even go up the driveway. You'd be like, oh, let's go up. And the thing is, there's woods behind the property that is one place where I would let him off leash in the future. So the fact that he's not interested in going up there right now is like, he just suddenly, like, you'll go to the end of the driveway and he'll just sit down and he'll refuse to go up there. And he's generally not a afraid dog. He's very kind of courageous and isn't generally afraid of things. So.
And if you keep walking and he sits there, what happens?
Well, I don't want to like just tug him on the leash. I don't want to tug him up there necessarily.
But what if you dropped the leash and kept walking away from him?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't tried that. I don't know. He probably would follow me up there, truthfully.
Yeah.
And Robert said that he's gotten him to go up there in the last couple of days. He's just like, no, come on. And he just like pulls him and he goes up there. But even though he's on his harness, I like don't want to just hug him. So I continue going the other direction, just up the road rather than going up the driveway. So, but I have not, to tell you the truth, just dropped the leash and walked up the driveway to see what he did.
And so if you did that now, would it be in order to go to the rental property, or would it be to go on a walk?
Well, so we would be leaving our house and going up the road and then going up the driveway to the rental property, and he would just sit on that driveway and not go up there.
Okay, so like, but is your so if you were to go up there in the future, would it be in order to go to those woods behind your house? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It would be to go up for a walk in the woods up there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I try is I would try like planning a walk, not going to the rental property that may have started this behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So you walk together with him on his leash. He sits down. You drop the leash and just keep walking. And I am pretty sure, I mean, I don't know, you'll have to tell me, but I'm pretty sure he'll come running after you if you just keep walking. Rather than calling him, you just, like, okay, if you want to stay behind, it's your problem.
I think you're right. And it's funny that I never even considered that. But yeah, I mean, I'm so wary of like just letting him off on his own, especially on the road, that I haven't even thought about that.
So yeah, like, I mean, it depends on what kind of road it is, right? But there are two things that are probably going to happen, or that are like, either he's going to keep sitting there and not move, in which case he's not on the road, right? He's just sitting there, or he's going to run after you. And when he catches up with you, you pick up the leash again, and then you go for that nice walk. So he has a positive association of having done the scary thing, or the, for whatever reason, undesirable thing. And then he figures out, oh, that actually leads to like really fun things that we do after.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't lead to the rental property. And since you're gonna rent it out anyways, like, bring him there anymore. Because I assume, like, if the cause of this really is something that happened when you left him outside at the rental property, something probably did happen. Like, something must have scared him, something that you didn't see or hear inside, that he sensed.
Mm-hmm.
So because you said it started happening after going there once and leaving him outside alone, right?
Yeah, for a few minutes, and then I came back out and he was just like kind of sitting in the corner of the porch and just kind of like he looked afraid, even though, or he looked like he didn't want to be there. He didn't necessarily look afraid. He just like, I don't want to be here right now.
So if like up to that point he was fine with this, I would assume something happened while you were inside. Like, nothing big. Like, it could just have been a noise that wasn't so loud that you could hear it inside, but that was just spooky to him, and he found himself all alone out there. Or maybe he saw some motion that also like was just something very normal, but he saw it and found himself all alone there, and didn't realize what it was, like just something that freaked him out in that moment. And then he made that association with this place. And he knows this place is up the driveway, so going there. Yeah, so I wouldn't take him there, but give this a try and see what happens. That is not normal adolescent behavior, that
Okay.
that they suddenly don't want to go to a certain place without anything having happened. So I think there's probably something.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Obviously, if you live like if like letting him sit there requires you to cross a busy highway, that is not what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
If it is safe to do so, yeah. And yeah, you can also like keep going while you still like not turn around, but like when there is a tree or something to hide behind, so that you're not that far and still where it feels you're in a safe area. And then observe him from behind that hiding spot. So he'll think you're gone, but you're not really.
Okay.
Yeah, and let's see what happens.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Let me get to some other questions. I think I addressed your questions, right?
Yep.
Did you send me something else? Yeah, with the car sickness, Kim, you mentioned that, yeah, that is a thing that puppies and adolescents sometimes have. Someone told me once, and I don't know if that's just a just so story or actually true, but that their sense of balance, like something to do with the development of the ears, is sometimes only fully established once they're a year old. So they just get car sick more easily when they're younger because it feels more wobbly, like motion sickness in the car. I do not know if this is true, but technically it would explain why young dogs are more likely to get car sick than old dogs. And what you've been doing, just going on brief car rides and always doing something fun on the end of that route, perfect.
Okay, great.
This in combination with getting older should take care of it.
Okay.
Whether that is a myth or not with the
Right.
Okay. All right. So we have Christina and Cricket. Joan, you may know them from the Facebook group. Kim, you probably don't know them. So Cricket is 19 months old and a small sports bred mix. I think she has Border Collie and Papillon and maybe something else too. I don't remember exactly. But she's from a sports breeder, came to Christina as a puppy, and Christina has been doing everything right with Cricket, basically. And Christina says, "This is my first time living with an adolescent dog, and it feels like we're constantly trying to strike a balance. And the balance point changes every day. It feels like a tightrope walk between helping her grow her resiliency, but also not flooding her, giving her a chance to explore a new experience without putting her in a situation to overreact, etc. Some days she acts like a trigger is no big deal, and I reward heavily, and other days she acts like something routine, like getting into her crate at bedtime is a foreign concept she's never even heard of. Is this something that gets easier as they mature? The triggers include people walking by our fence. Some days she looks at them and easily dismisses them, and other days she fixates and will growl. It's not usually a predictable visual indicator that will cause the growling, like a hat or a person with a dog or holding something. We're working through other behavioral challenges with a vet behaviorist, mostly fear. So I suspect that might be the primary driver here, but I have also noticed changes in her personality during this time. Here's a list of behavior changes I wondered if they could be attributed to adolescence. Like a week where she refused to go into her crate and we had to start over with crate games, and now she's totally fine with it again. There was no bad experience with the crate that I know of and no fear around it, just no interest. She used to always put herself to bed and happily go in for a week. And for a week, she was like, "What is that thing? No thanks." She also started to chew on furniture, not something she ever showed interest in, even as a teething puppy, and with plenty of available chews and usual outlets. We restricted access, and she's forgotten about it again. I also noticed that her stamina for training has increased. She often asks to do more reps in our trick training sessions and is more confident to try throwing new behaviors. Yeah, and Christina says, I'm mostly interested in just hearing about juvenile and adolescent dog experiences in general and look forward to hearing your thoughts about the topic as a whole. Dogs are so fascinating. And yeah, I agree. Overall, watching animals grow up and change is endlessly fascinating, just to start with the general topic. And I have observed some puppies changing very little. They grow physically, their stamina grows, and then they're adults. And most of my dogs have been this way. Game was the most notable exception to this. She really threw adolescent behaviors my way. And when I think to myself as a teenager and use that as an example, like in humans, because I think like mammals, we're all not all that different. So it is a time when you start becoming your own person. So as a human, you start finding and reflecting on your own values, and you start questioning those around you, and you suddenly have the autonomy to do so. While like for the first time in your life, right? As a kid, you can't get in a car and leave if you want to because you don't have a driver's license. But then as a teenager, at some point you get one. And I hated kindergarten, but I only started skipping school in middle and high school because kindergarten, I didn't think of it. And even if I had thought of it, like because my mind just didn't really have the concept, even though I hated kindergarten more than school later on. And it also would have been a lot harder because there was constant supervision because I was basically a puppy, right? And so we create the puppy or we observe the puppy. We don't let the puppy roam around and come up with their own creative things. But then, yeah, once I was able to have stronger opinions about formalized, institutionalized education, I was able to act on these opinions. And I had very strict parents, and they used a lot of negative punishment in terms of taking away privileges. And that just made me really good at doing things sneakily and made me really good at lying. That's what it did. And today, as an adult, in terms of my values, I'm still very close to the person I became when I was a teenager. I just don't have to do things sneakily anymore because I have my own life. And I don't have to sneak out at night or skip school because I now have the freedom to be myself, right? But also one of my best friends who I grew up with was always like this good kid. And she is still pretty much the same person she was at that age too. So I think just like with humans, dogs and juvenile dogs are different. Like some just grow up physically and like slowly mature into their adult selves, and others start seeing all kinds of possibilities in the world that they didn't notice earlier, or maybe they didn't have access to them earlier, like Cricket and the furniture that she suddenly deems worthy of being chewed on. She may just really, as a puppy, not have had the idea that, oh, one could actually chew on this. Or Christina may have supervised her more as a puppy, like without being really aware of it, just like really making sure that there always was a chew out while she was teething, for example. And maybe Christina has been doing a little less of this, and now Cricket is like, time to find my own entertainment. But Christina, you said you already solved that problem, so I'm glad you don't have any more chewing issues on the furniture. If anyone has that issue, I'm a big fan of cardboard shredding for puppies. So if you get any deliveries, if you have any empty toilet paper rolls or kitchen towel rolls, many puppies who like to chew on stuff like to shred these things. And if they don't, hide a treat in them at first, and they usually get into the hobby pretty quickly. Wait. Oh, and the crate example, Christina. That Christina mentions, that is also that's really interesting to me because I have definitely seen that happen, and it is actually also something that Game had like sometime when she was 7 or 8 months old. From one day to the next, she decided she didn't want to sleep in her crate anymore. Or I'm saying she decided because it felt like she decided. Up until then, she had slept in her crate, no problem, and she would go in, didn't mind, and I had her sleep in the crate because I didn't trust her yet. At that age, she was always getting into trouble. So while I was asleep, I wanted her to not destroy anything. So she would sleep in her crate and she was fine doing that until one day she was like, nope. And she would make her, so she would whine. I was like, no, like not in a whine, I'm afraid, or whine, I don't want to be left alone, but whine in the protest kind of way that
I've heard that whine.
Yeah, you know what I mean. She's like, no, I'm not. I am not okay with this. I have an opinion. And at that time, I lived in a townhouse with thin walls and neighbors on the other side of it. So I couldn't just let her whine it out as you could if you lived in the middle of nowhere. So I just didn't crate her anymore. And then she ended up eating the cable of my laptop because my bedroom was also my office. And I had to get a replacement. But yeah. But I mean, after it took her a month and a half or so, and then she was fine again with sleeping in the crate. So what I think it is, and that may have been the same thing for cricket, is the stamina. Is it stamina or stamina? Stamina. One of the native speakers, please let me know.
Oh, yep, stamina.
Stamina, thank you.
Yeah.
The stamina increases as they get older, and sometimes, and also if you think of it in terms of physics, right? Energy, not in the woo-woo sense of the word, but in the physical sense of the word. Puppies have a moderate amount of energy, and they have a lot of entropy, so they're very chaotic. They don't really know what to do with that energy. It's all over the place. But the energy is also only moderate. They fall asleep quickly. So, and once they're house trained, they can sleep through the night. But adolescents have a high amount of energy and still have a very high amount of entropy. So that energy is not really goal directed yet. It's all over the place. And sometimes they can only do something like sit still for a very limited amount of time. And that goes for the night as well. So while as puppies, they may have been able to sleep through the night once they were house trained, as adolescents, sometimes they can't do that anymore. So they may be able to sleep in a crate for 4 hours at a time, and then that battery is recharged, and they need to put that energy somewhere right then and there. And then they can go another 4 hours, and then they need another. They don't have the rhythm of an adult dog yet because they can't really control what they're doing quite yet. And once they're adult dogs, they have a moderate amount of energy and very little entropy, very little chaos, right? So they are able to actually focus on tasks and stay on task even when the task is just chill and sleep in your crate. So that's my explanation for this anyways. So when I see that in a young dog, for example, not being able to sleep through the night anymore, I did that with Game too, but that didn't seem to be her issue. But I increase physical or mental activity in some way and see if that helps makes things better. And so the great issue that Christina, that you noticed, may have may go hand in hand with what you also observed, that Cricket's increased stamina for training. She now has more energy, and that definitely happens as puppies get older. So I would say, yeah, that is an effect of adolescence, or maybe an effect of growing up. Chewing furniture. Oh yeah, and the people who walk past the fence, that that I would not necessarily put into the category of adolescence. So if so Christina said that Cricket barks at people walking past the fence, and there's no visible stimulus that Christina can make out. There probably is something that differentiates the people that Cricket barks or growls at from the ones she doesn't, but it may not be something we humans can tell, right? But she probably can. So if this has been going on for weeks or months, and especially with Cricket being like having generally fear issues, I would think that is more to do with her overall insecurities than with her age. So I would work on this in the same way I would with an adult dog if it's been going on for a while. So first thing I would do is reframe it for myself in terms of operating under the assumption that every single person who walks by is a trigger. That way you're always ready. And then you can either counter condition for every person walking past, and it really depends on where you live, right? How much people traffic is there. Or alternatively, teach an incompatible behavior. For example, notice a person walk past and run inside to get a treat in a spot from which you can't see that person, which is incompatible with barking at the fence. Both of those would work if you are home when Cricket is in the yard. If Cricket is in the yard unsupervised when you're not home, that of course is not an option. And I don't know what your situation is in that respect. So if you're not home, it's impossible to be consistent in terms of either teaching an incompatible behavior or counter conditioning. So if that is the case and she's outside by herself or with your other dogs when you're not home, yeah, you have several options. The counter conditioning or training an incompatible behavior option are basically they're basically out the window because you'll be inconsistent, and she would likely still bark or growl at people when by herself. So you could decide to either restrict access in your absence, so not let her out by herself, or get a second fence line and a strong visual barrier to the street. So if it's a visual trigger, she can still go into the yard, but she can't see who is passing by the fence. Or you could decide that this is not something you want to worry about because barking at strangers is kind of a normal dog behavior. And there are many dogs, if you go for a walk in the city or in the suburbs with dogs behind fences, there are dogs barking behind fences everywhere. So it seems to be socially acceptable to let our dogs just bark at people who walk past the fence. So that's more about how we feel about it. And if you're not okay, like not Christina in general, but anyone watching this, if you have a dog who you want to be outside while you're not home and you're not okay with them barking at strangers walking past, and a second fence line is either not an option or is too expensive, there is like the only way to get rid of the barking would be, I believe, to use a bark collar that you could set to a vibration setting, for example. And I don't think Christina wants to do that, but I'm just mentioning it here. It it won't disappear by itself unless we can be really consistent in terms of training there. But I hope that Christina and Cricket's setup is on the easier end of the spectrum, so that maybe Cricket usually goes out when Christina is home, and yeah, either counter conditioning or training in incompatible behavior are your ticket to success. Okay, and then I think that's all from Christina. Yeah. Then we have Sandra and Felony, who thought they would be able to make it, but couldn't. And just in case, I got the question in advance. So Felony is a 25 months old Doberman. She's a service dog in training. She's really awesome. She's really, really impressive. I don't know if I've seen a Doberman who seems this stable and social in my life before as this dog. So yeah, it's quite impressive to me. I mean, all the Dobermans I've worked with were in Austria, so maybe Austrian Dobermans are specifically prone to being highly anxious, but yeah, Felony is not. She is very social, stable, but of course, she is high energy because she's a Doberman. And Sandra asks, how do you handle the young adolescent who goes over the top rapidly or even without warning and the brain turns off? That's a great question. And that is also very common for dogs at that age. And I've definitely seen that a lot in Austrian Dobermans in general. I don't know. Dobermans seem to have, I don't know if Joan, you used to have Dobermans. Right?
Yeah, I had Dobermans.
Is that
Mine were all really chill.
really?
They were really nice dogs. I mean, like easy dogs.
That's really interesting and really nice to hear. Like, I mean, maybe the population of Austrian Dobermans that I have met is just a particularly challenging population, but I was so surprised when I got to know Felony virtually as to how, like, what a nice dog she was too. Yeah, so in any case, high energy dogs are prime candidates for turning their brains off without warning or going into high arousal without like a Ferrari, right? From 0 to 100 in 5 seconds, or whatever the saying is. At least, well, in metrics land, we would say 0 to 100. I'm not sure what you say in miles land.
60. 0 to 60.
Oh, thank you. So it's normal for them to go into high energy states because they are Ferraris, right? And sometimes Ferraris go fast. And we don't want them to turn into minivans. But we do want to be able to shift them up and down so they don't get into accidents. And many dogs don't know naturally, especially at this age, how to go from high back to low states of arousal. So one good way of helping them with that is just playing what I call arousal modulation games, where you purposefully and within the training session shift them up and down again through the different gears. So it's not only very low to very high, but let them explore all the gears that the dog has. And what that means looks different depending on the dog and what they find most exciting and least exciting. So let's hypothetically say that Felony finds chasing a ball on a rope the most exciting, and the least exciting is eating a kibble scatter. So your goal could be to be able to go from chasing balls on ropes down to kibble scatters, and then back up to chasing balls on rope, and back down to eating a boring kibble scatter and not leaving a single treat. So this is a big jump in arousal levels, because one involves boring food and sniffing and being almost stationary, and the other one involves running at top speed and chasing something. So this may be PhD level arousal modulation for a young high energy dog. So I'd start easier. For example, with a treat from your hand, that might be a medium value treat, medium arousal way of delivering a treat. A toss treat, that might be a high arousal way of delivering a treat, because it involves running. And a treat scatter, which may be the lowest of the three. So you'd, in the first session, use the same treats for all three activities: scatter, take treat from your hand, and toss a treat. And if you used multiple marker cues, you would use them in that situation. If you don't use them, you can just hand over the treats in these different ways and not worry about it, and just stay at this stage until she can do those three in any order as you mix them up. And once you can do that, you would still stick with the treats, but start varying the value of the treat. For example, a medium value for the scatter, high value for the food from your hand, and low value for the treat toss, and then alternate between these variations until you can go back up and down between a high value treat toss, so high arousal, high value treat, and a low value treat scatter. So the most boring activity with the most boring kind of treat, and the most exciting one with the most exciting treat. And once you can do that, and there is no latency, you can start integrating toys. And first you'd use the most boring, like in this hypothetical example, Felony prefers toys over food, and her highest value toy is a ball and a rope. So in this example, you would use the most boring toy to start with, and alternate that with the most exciting way of delivering the highest value food. So for example, you could throw a soft stuffed toy that is always out and around in the house anyways, and you could throw it not particularly far, and alternate this with cheese cube tosses. And once you can go back and forth between those, little by little, you can make the difference between the value of the reinforcer and the excitement level greater and greater, until you can play fetch with a ball and a rope, and then scatter Felony down again with kibble right away, and then have another round of playing fetch with balls and a rope. So, and you'd have to modify this example depending on what is highest value to Felony. So it may all be food, it may all be toys, or it may be a mixture, it may be the other way around. Maybe food is higher value than toys. That's one way of teaching the concept of shifting arousal up and down. And once a dog knows this in a game, then they'll have an easier time applying it in real life. So once you have taught that scatter, for example, as an activity to calm her back down, you could then start using it in real life situations when Felony loses her brain. To bring her back down, you could use, in this situation, a food scatter that is whatever. It can be a high value food scatter, whatever is appropriate for that situation. Yeah, and once again, just making sure that also she gets her exercise needs met every day, and her needs for mental stimulation met, because otherwise it's not fair to ask a juvenile dog to be calm, because they just can't, like literally can't do it. So we need to set them up for success by meeting their needs, and then we get to expect things like this too. And also with Felony being a service dog in training, eventually she'll have to be able to be calm and attentive for extended periods of time. So this is something you can, I mean, you're probably doing this anyways, but you could already, like, you can start working on this by means of making it very clear what kind of situation she is in, right? Is it a situation where she's just at liberty to be herself and be a dog? So for my dogs, anytime, like if I'm whatever I do before when I say all done, I'll withdraw my attention, and it usually means just do whatever you want. You're free to be dogs, whether I'm at home or we're walking together. Like it means I'm not asking anything specific of you. Is it playtime? Then this is something with Felony you could announce by asking her if she wants to play, for example, before you bring out toys and start playing. And then always ending that playtime again, that high energy time, with some kind of all done announcer. She just knows what kind of state we're working with. And then for work time, probably calm, concentration. If you're already using a service dog and training vest, then that would be her contextual cue. That she'd be wearing it anytime you're working on the future service dog behaviors or in those situations, and only have it on for as long as her brain can handle actually being in that state of mind. And that will probably fluctuate while she's young, but as she gets older, she'll be able to stay in that working mode longer and longer. And eventually, as long as she needs to, and as long as she wears her vest. I think that was, I only got one question about Felony. Let me see. Did I have someone else send me something? No, that was all of them. Joan and Kim, if you have any follow-up questions or remarks or tips for either Christina or Sandra, the floor is yours again.
I know I do a lot of that arousal modulation with Judge in the Agility Foundation classes, have a lot of it where tug, 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 ask him to sit, or, that kind of thing. So that we do a lot of. It's helpful. He's really good at bringing himself up and down, and calming down.
What's your favorite game to teach this?
I don't know. I usually have toy, it usually involves tugging and then either asking for behavior or something like that. But he's really good. Or even in Shade's classes where you're doing the two toy, asking them for eye contact or a sit or some simple behavior before you throw the toy, just to make sure they're still with you.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shade's class, definitely good ones for getting structure into those young brains. And asking for behaviors in between high energy play is also a good one, especially if it anything that involves stillness, and it can be brief eye contact at first, and then you grow it slowly into sitting still for several seconds, which is a long time for some dogs. Yeah. Thank you, Joan.
Sure.
Kim, anything you would like to add or ask?
I don't think so. I think I remember Felony from the recall class, so seemed like a great dog.
Yeah, she's really good.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that I've done with Monty is the kind of what I took Aaron's adolescent class as a bronze on Fenty, and we did the pause button, so kind of do activity, and then we have a caden board, and that was his station, so I'd do crazy chasing the flirt pole and then put him in his station, and make him sit there for a minute and then go back to it. So yeah, the same kind of modulation thing, which is good. So
I took that class audited at bronze also, and I use the caden board too. So if Judge is doing sometimes we're doing things where spins or things where circles, and you can see when he gets frustrated, he starts to get into infinite loop, and then there might be a little whining, and I'm hopping up, and we take a break for 30 seconds, and then he's sometimes he'll go put himself on there. He's I gotta go.
Yeah.
Or I use a table or the caden board. So, but that was one helpful thing from that class. I was surprised there weren't more any Belgians in that class because I'm like talking about dogs who big adolescents.
What were the dogs in the class?
Mostly labs.
Really? Oh,
Well, because Aaron breeds labs, so I think she.
Yeah,
ah,
she's a lab person. So.
right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Her
Well,
puppy class was great too, though. So
oh, I didn't realize Erin has a puppy class. I'll have to audit that sometime.
yeah, and she's doing like older dog class now, like for dogs, older dogs,
Yeah,
fitness for old dogs, which is great. So
no, she does that one. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, new semester, or is it a semester? If it's, yeah, it's a semester, right? Or does it be 6 months long to be a semester?
Yeah.
It's about to start.
Yep.
Yeah. And Monty is about to start becoming a flyball dog. Nice.
Well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. It's like the thing for me is that we're so far away from everything that like the closest flyball club is 2 hours away,
Oh,
and so I just can't realistically imagine that'll be something that we can really do. But I do think it's a good sport. But even just like the fundamentals of it, of the fetching and the running, and I mean, ideally there'd be a partner thing where he's reacting, working with other dogs. So I don't know, but we're gonna take this. There's a Hudson Valley Flyball Facebook group that I contacted, and they suggested this class. So we're gonna do it. It'll be fun. We'll see.
it's gonna be fun for him, and
Yeah.
it'll be stimulation for his brain and his body, and it'll give you
Yeah.
ideas that you can implement at home too. So
Yeah.
if you can't
Yeah. I mean,
it as a regular thing.
yeah. The class is called Hold Your Balls. So. So we'll see. It'll be fun.
Well, have lots of fun. Thank you both for joining.
Thank you.
I did not
Thanks,
read
Caden.
Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
Because it's not a thing that
Right.
my cultures.
Even if there's no like even if there's no like pilgrim thing, there should be like a weekend where you give thanks and you eat a lot of food wherever you are.
Like that concept. I mean, I don't like the colonialist history of the
Yeah,
US,
yeah.
but I like the idea of being grateful of something and someone.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
eating lots of food.
And eating lots of food, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, have a lovely evening, both of you, and everyone watching this. Yeah, and see you around the internets.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Of
Nice
course.
to meet you, John.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.